Because I look at people and I was like, you were dumb enough to do it. Deal with it.
Facebook is drama. It's high school drama. It really is. How many pastors have gotten in trouble because of Facebook?
Yeah.
How many marriages got in trouble with Facebook?
Right.
I don't do Facebook.
I was helping with the youth one day. I looked around. I thought, my pacemaker's older than every kid in here. You know? Yeah.
I think a lot of Americans, even, dare I say, American Christians, I say that loosely, will sell their souls to maintain a lifestyle if it comes down to that. And that, I think, is very dangerous.
One of the things that Verna and I have done over the years when we find ourselves in difficult situations is that we will go through the litany of the various times that God has helped us. And we express those out loud to each other, and they serve as a reminder to us that God was through us in this situation, and this situation, and this situation. What makes us think he's not going to be with us in this one as well?
The next week after that first state championship game, they joined the church. And their words were this: you cared enough to drive 6 hours for a kid that's not yours. That tells me something.
Hi, I'm Chris McNeil, and this is Ministry on the Move, a podcast interviewing pastors and ministers across the USA. As the father of the McNeils, I get to travel across the country singing the gospel, and one day it occurred to me that you all need to know each other. You are a part of the extended McNeil family and the body of Christ. Join me on a journey to churches of all shapes and sizes, different parts of the country, and see just what it takes to shepherd the body of Christ. For more information on the McNeils, you can visit us at mcneilmusic.tv or mcneilmusic.com. Thanks for joining us, and here's the episode. Hey, y'all, thanks so much for joining. Boy, we've got a good one for you today. So the McNeils were down in Waco, Texas, and we sang at Emmanuel Baptist Church in Waco. And this was fun because there are actually two churches meeting in one building. And for reasons that'll become, I think, apparent, clear, maybe even necessary, and I think you'll understand why here shortly. But I had both pastors on this, so it was kind of a 2-for-1 special. I don't know how much this will resonate with those of us in America versus those of us international, but it was just a fascinating conversation, a fascinating dynamic that most churches aren't going to experience, and so I thought it was worthy of pursuing. So thank you so much for listening to this episode. I sure hope that you guys will take a minute and like, subscribe, share, comment, write a review on iTunes or Apple or Spotify or wherever it is that you consume podcasts. I know it's a pain for me to keep asking for this, but that is the way that the podcast gets legs and shows up in people's inboxes or their search engines or whatever it is. So I would very much appreciate it if you enjoy the show. I would appreciate it if you would take a moment and do that for me. God bless you guys for listening to this, and I can tell that the podcast is growing slowly but steadily, and so I thank you all for those of you who listen. And here is the episode. I'm fascinated. For the two of you, because you're international and working together in the same building, and that's a really unique angle. And by the way, the morning service was sort of overwhelming to me. Because I would love to see more of that in the body of Christ. Media is going to portray us as always at each other's throats because you're not white, or I'm not Chinese, or I'm not Spanish, or whatever the angle is. They don't want us loving on each other, and that's what was going on this morning. It was just beautiful. And I think the world needs to hear about that particular aspect of the work that you guys are doing. So I said I was rolling, and I was. Normally that's pre-roll, and I would start the show here. I think I'm probably going to include what I just said because I don't want to have to say it again. So this is Chris McNeil, Ministry on the Move, episode Who Knows? And today the McNeils find ourselves at Emmanuel Baptist Church in Waco, Texas. And Marcello, forgive me, I'm sorry. Tell me your last name.
My last name is Oliveira.
Oliveira.
Yeah, Oliveira. If you're going to put those two together, Oliveira.
Yeah.
Oliveira.
Okay. All right. And then Daniel, tell me your name, your last name.
Last name is Gao, G-A-O.
G-A-O. Go.
Yeah.
Okay. And Marcello, you are from Puerto Rico.
From Brazil.
I'm sorry, Brazil.
Yes.
And then Daniel, you are from China.
Yeah.
And Emmanuel was one of those churches back in the 90s that was the epicenter of the town in a lot of ways.
You could say, yes, 80s and 90s, you could say that. It was maybe one of the churches in Waco.
Yeah.
In Waco area, yeah, right.
And then underwent some contraction, urban flight maybe.
Yes. And the area of the city, the neighborhood moved away to the suburbs, and those who remained in the church did not know how to translate that into the new people moving into their neighborhood. So ministry dwindled, and they just didn't know how to make that transition. So that caused a lot of the attendance to go down. Of course, many also passed away. Many moved. It being a university city, a college city, a lot of people were members for a season, and they of course they went to different places. So there's all of that there too. But yeah, nothing major happened. It's just that the ministry of the church, was not as effective as used to be. Back in their past,
and the culture around it changed.
Yes.
And so when you, which one of you got here first?
Daniel did.
Yeah. Because we just celebrated the Waco Chinese Church just celebrated its 30 years of ministry. I think two weeks ago. So the church begins by, I think it's 10-something person as a student group. And when they decide to become a church, Emmanuel accept us to worship under the same roof. So almost 30 years we have been with Emmanuel.
So is this the same story that I heard from the Alpha Daniel?
Yes. The Alpha Daniel was actually here before Daniel.
Yeah.
This is Daniel Gamma.
Right.
Gal. And then we have Daniel Omega. He is here somewhere.
So for the listeners, Daniel Alpha was explaining to me that it basically started off as a college Bible study.
That's correct.
For Chinese students, and then after a time, they realized that there were other components of a worship service that might be missing, and decided to add that. And then so Daniel, you got involved and brought it under the umbrella of Emmanuel.
No, I later I joined them 8 years ago.
8 years ago.
Yeah,
Okay.
I came here for seminary studies, so I joined the church. After that, and after graduation, they just let me continue minister with them.
Yeah. And then Marcello, so Daniel was here 8 years ago, and Marcello, you came here 4 years ago?
I came here 4 years ago. Matter of fact, in 3 weeks, I will be celebrating 4 years leading the church here serving as their pastor.
So you're actually post-COVID.
I am post-COVID.
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. I came to America in August of 19. and I went to Abilene, Texas for schooling for my for more education. And then after the first semester, they decided to close the seminary there. So I began looking at different options where to transfer to, and then COVID came. So ended up long story short, series of events. I came to Truett Seminary here in Waco, and after that, they were looking for someone to celebrate their Christmas service. They had shut down the services. This is 2020. All the services are
Oh, right.
yes,
Yeah.
we're all. So they were like, let's go back, at least have a Christmas service for that 2020 Christmas. So they didn't, since they didn't have a pastor then, they went to the seminary and asked to find someone that could come and preach their service. So I came. And then after that service was over, they asked me, "Well, are you busy next week?" I said, "No. Well, would you mind coming again and preaching for us again next Sunday?" So I came, and then long story short, it's been 4 years.
I wish I had a nickel for every time I heard that story. That's my story. When I was doing music, it was, "Hey, can you fill in for a couple of weeks while we find an interim? Hey, can you fill in for a couple of months? You are the interim.
Yes.
Can you fill in for a couple of years? We don't need an interim." That's right. Isn't that how?
And I even came to the realization that if someone invites me to come as their pastor, I probably will say yes, but I will never say yes. Someone invites me to be an interim. Because I might actually stay. Yeah.
That's funny. So, Daniel, I want to ask you. So, I should continue to set the table here, because you guys are doing two different works, and you have two. For all intents and purposes, you have two congregations meeting under the same roof, and Marcello, you have a multicultural congregation. By and large, now you have some old legacy Texan Wacoites type things, but you have other nationalities that are
coming with me in my presence. We began reaching out to the community around us because the church began to realize, hey, if we're going to continue to exist as a church, and we must proclaim the kingdom and share the gospel. We can't just keep this as a club for ourselves.
Right.
So we began going out and walking around the neighborhood and realized, the neighborhood around us is extremely different from who we are.
Right.
And we need to go back and minister to them. They're the ones that God placed us in, and they're the ones around us that we need to go to and minister to. So going to them, we began to discover different nationalities among the Hispanic groups that we have around us. So we have about 4 different nationalities among the Hispanics in our church. But then we began to realize we have some different nationalities in Africa and in Asia, besides the Chinese church. So we have about 11 different nations that attend to
represented
our services.
here. Yeah.
All in English, but all within our facet of the body of Christ.
Right.
At Emmanuel.
Yeah. And then Daniel, your focus is on the Chinese community.
Yeah.
And Marcello, I think, told me that approximately 85% of your congregation speaks English, and that you have a translation that has to occur for 15% of your congregants.
Yeah.
And so do you preach in English, or do you flip-flop back and forth? Or?
I usually preach in Mandarin Chinese, but we have guest speakers who came once a month to preach English, because we also have our different culture. Because the next generation of the Chinese people, we call them ABCs, American-born Chinese. They have different cultures than us, so we also need to minister to them. So we have English speakers, and we have someone to minister to this group of usually our youth group. Yeah.
So I want to ask you guys 1,000 questions. I'm gonna try and keep them somewhat focused, but I may get scattered because I'm educated in Christianity as long as it's the westernized version of it. I'm pretty stupid when it comes. I mean, I've read some books, and but I haven't lived it. So first of all, what caused each of you to come to the U.S.? Let's start there. Marcello, was it the seminary?
It was, yes, more education. I was serving as a pastor in Brazil for many years and growing my kids and serving, and always wanted to work more on my degree, to learn more because I wanted to serve better. So I thought, well, by learning more and gaining a better education, I will have a chance to serve better. Coming to the States was the idea for me. So I came and then didn't really think that I was going to be serving as a pastor here when I first came. I came just for the education to go back. The English is not my native language, so I didn't ever conceive the idea that I could minister in English.
In a second language,
Yeah, in a
right,
second
sure.
language. So that was the beginning of it for me. But then coming here, the opportunity and I think God's hand guiding us brought us over here. I remember when I first came to Emmanuel, we were about 12. And they had that decision made that the congregation was dying. And I looked at them and said, well, I don't think so. There's so much potential, so much life here. A church with 12 people in my country would be a thriving church. There's so much we can do. And you guys are saying that you're quitting, you're dying. I mean, you got 12 people. That's amazing.
Don't give up.
Yes. So that I think kind of began to change the focus of hey, I guess maybe God's not through with us yet.
Right.
We can do more, and that's how it all began, and well, I guess how it all continued.
That is great. I mean, I knew coming here, and I knew sitting down with both of you that I was going to get some of my paradigms, the furniture in my head rearranged. And you've already started that with the 12 people. That's a thriving church overseas.
Yes, amazing. But one of the things they said, well, but we're old. The youngest one was 72. I said, well, that's even better. You have more experience.
Yeah.
You can teach better. You can share more, give us more life experience that we don't know. So even better now. So,
Daniel, how about you? What was the cause for you coming to the United States?
I came for to study, but not to become a minister. When I came, it was a personal interest. So I came. The earliest time I came to U.S. is 2000. I came here to Baylor to study business, and during that time, somebody just tell me about Jesus. But during that time, it's too much for me to accept this new faith. But afterward, when I came back, I work, and I think I came to the faith through reading. I reading a lot. I compared, and at last I accept this one. I will go with this one.
So, what would you have considered yourself before you came to faith in Christ?
I cannot describe. Usually think we are atheists.
Okay.
But I think, frankly, we are idol worshiper. I worship everything except for Jesus.
Okay. So it's my understanding, and you're the expert, not me, that pantheism is a big thing in Eastern cultures.
Yeah.
God in everything, and so everything is worthy to be worshiped. Is that what you're describing?
It's not that. I think it's we worship different gods from different culture. So in China, Buddhist is a great thing.
Sure.
But the Buddhist God is from India. Mm-hmm. We have our own version of that, like Buddhist, but Chinese version. It's Chinese figures.
Right.
And we have worship other things. So in China, there is lots of idols everywhere. So we just, I think people that just dare not to ignore everyone. So
in China, I'd be curious about this in Brazil too. Do when you say worship, do you mean worship like we did this morning?
No, worship in China means to give respect, or sometimes you respect the others with material things. You give to it, either money or some kind of fancy thing. You give to the others, expect that he will bless you in return. It's more like
This for that. Quid pro quo.
Yeah, it's a transaction.
A transaction.
A transaction,
yes.
yeah, absolutely. Marcello, how about you in Brazil?
Yeah, Brazil has been for the last over these years that I grew up and lived there. It was more like a religion, and it still is. Catholicism is strong. About 95%, growing up, about 95% of the people in Brazil were Catholics. And we make a distinction between Catholicism and Christianity there. Because when you mean Catholicism, and that's about 95% of the population, you're saying my grandfather, great-grandfather, or my great-grandmother told my father and my grandfather that I was Catholic. Therefore, I am a Catholic. Well, what does that mean? No, I don't know. I just know that I was told that I was Catholic. Well, do you know about Jesus? No. Who is Jesus? And I have personally encountered people that I witnessed to who didn't know who Jesus was.
And yet said they were Catholic.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yes. So it's more like a religion. We would say in Portuguese, a nominal religion. By name, I am this, but I'm not anything by practice or by faith. I don't even know what faith is. So nominal Catholics. And the difference between religion and a relationship with Christ. I do, coming over here, find a little bit of a different, I don't know how to say this in a way that I don't sound rude. And I don't mean to, but I see a little bit of this nuance in Christianity. A lot of people saying, "Well, I'm a Christian." Well, what does that mean? Well, I was baptized when I was a young child, but that's the extent of it. So
I was born in America, therefore.
Yeah, therefore So that to me is a little bit of that nuance of Catholicism.
Keith Green was a singer in the 70s. He was very fiery. And he said that going to church doesn't make you a Christian any more than going to McDonald's makes you a Big Mac.
You got it.
Right.
It.
Yeah. And it's that same idea that they think just because I'm in a garage, I'm a car.
Yeah.
Well, so functionally, atheism over here with a nod to any God that, right, for Daniel, functionally in Brazil, is it atheism? Is it spiritism?
There's a syncretism because of the way our nation was brought up. We've got a lot of the Africans that came with the Indians and the Portuguese. So we have this Catholicism with this mixture of a lot of African religions. So a lot of spiritism. We call it Macumba, Iemanjá, those just different brands of this type of spiritism that is within the Catholic faith, to the point that the Catholic idols or the icons of the Catholic faith are named after the Catholic faith. So like Saint Augustine or Saint this and that, they have their name from the Catholic faith, but they also have their name in Spiritism, the same icon with different names, meaning two different things in the same religion. So there's this. You look at St. Jude, for instance, St. Jude is St. Jude for the Catholics, but those who are in that church sitting in those pews looking at that St. Jude, they are also looking at that one being the god of the African god of this or this and that.
Right.
So there's all of that is intertwined.
Wow. So I'm curious, for each of you, you've come over to America and you went to Truett Seminary here at Baylor University, both of you, right? MDiv, is that what we were doing?
MDiv, yeah.
Yeah, both of you. So when, and Daniel, you said you're a relatively new Christian, less than 20 years. I think you said 08?
Yeah.
So as you look at the American culture, I'm sure that there are a few things that you can kind of that we could improve on from your position. You've come you've come over here and you have a perspective that we as Americans could never hope to attain because you're looking at us from the outside. And I realize that from a cultural perspective, that's easy pickings. That's not what I'm after. What I'm after is, as a pastor, you're looking at the Christian church in America. What is it about us, by us I mean the Christian church in America, that you look at and say, I'm not sorry, but it's really not in my Bible. I'm asking to scratch on the scar or pick the wound here in America and sort of gently talk about things that maybe not that we don't see about ourselves, those of us practicing Christianity in America. It's just confusing to you.
Mm-hmm.
I suspect that the list is long. The way that you guys are looking at each other, you're like, I don't know if I want it. This feels like a bait.
Well, no, it doesn't feel like a bait, but do you want to go first, Daniel?
You first.
I go first. Okay. Well, I'll maybe mention one or two and then let you go in. And if I think of others, one thing that is striking to me is the way sometimes. Try to think of how to best describe it. We want to have church, but we can't have church if we don't have this and this and this and that. Like, wait a minute, what do you mean? We're here, but we don't have the perfect sound, the perfect equipment. We got to have what I would describe a show. And yes, you put on an amazing show, and I'm not in any shape or form mentioning anything to what happened today. Today was worship, but sometimes you can miss the forest for the trees. To use an American expression here, and you're right there before God, and you don't realize that all you need to do to worship God is just worship God. And there's so much going on, and so many voices that are trying to at the same time please, that God becomes one of them when you don't have as much. And frankly, I was born in a poor country, so coming from this perspective, sometimes not having as much gives you a better perspective. What are you really after, and who do you really worship? So it gives us, at least for me, helped me being brought in that type of circumstance to see that I don't need much to worship God and to adore Him. And I'm comfortable with less because I know how to do without, and I know that all that I am and who I am today is because of Him and Him alone. It's not my education. It's not even the education that I was even able to receive here, but it is about God. Daniel, want to go?
For me, I think the thing bothers me much is that in China, we usually thinking collectively. We use the word "we" more than "I." But in U.S., it's another extreme. Yeah, people talk about personally, individually, and I think people put too much emphasis on personal achievement or personal realization. I think now here, I think it's maybe too much on that. Yeah.
A lot of individualism. Versus the collective.
We are too too collective.
Yeah.
But here is another extreme.
Right. in church history, and in church history, they talk about how in the Greek Orthodox Church, that if a couple within the church divorced, that the church repented because they weren't being the community that they were supposed to be. And that to me points out the radical individualism that you're talking about, Daniel, in America, that we don't do life together. We intersect with each other, and I need this and you need that, and those aren't quite the same thing. What is the hardest, what is the most difficult part of being, I don't know what else to call it, an international pastor in the United States? Are there difficulties that come with, I mean, I know there's difficulties of being a pastor. I can, those are documented very well in this podcast. I've interviewed men who've lost their wives while they were, in the pastorate, or they, one that's going, I mentioned this morning, his wife's in stage 4 cancer, and you're in a different position because you're a pastor. But I think there's an added angle in that you're international. I'm curious, does that present difficulties, or does that make it easier? Or
I think it both. Yes, the answer is yes, both. To both questions, there's difficulties. I think extra layers of difficulties. One of them maybe it may not be for Daniel. For me, it is the language. Learning the language, learning to communicate in English, being not the nature, my nature, my language from birth.
Mm-hmm.
Because like just now, trying to communicate what I want to communicate sometimes doesn't get across the way I want, or I think I'm saying something when I'm actually saying something else. So that goes into the culture, the nuances of the culture that I don't read because I just don't have all of that baggage. Well, you can call it baggage or heritage, all of your past that you grew up with and I didn't. So I don't have all of that. That makes it harder for me to minister to people. At the same time, it makes it easier because I don't see all that baggage and I just go right through the heart to what really matters.
Yeah.
And it helped me, at least for me, it helps me look at people as people. At the end of the day, I may not know enough English to communicate, but I see your heart and you see my heart, and I see in your heart that you bleed, you cry, you suffer, you lost someone you love,
Right.
you're in despair, you lost a job, you're having family problems. I see right through that. So I learn, and I'm learning another communication language that goes beyond the English, Portuguese, Spanish, Mandarin. It's just the language of being with the people and letting them know where I stand and what my heart is. So it facilitates that I can, and because of that, they're more open to me, and we create this closer bond that I think, in my opinion, helps me minister better, should I say. So, yeah.
Daniel?
Yeah, for me, things are more simple because I minister with the same kind of people as I am.
Mm.
Yeah, the only thing I have to cross over is that what I got, theology training is in English.
Mm-hmm.
So I myself, I read English, I think in English, but I have to translate to Mandarin Chinese to tell our people.
Oh, wow.
I have personally processed this translation in me because I trained in English. I trained in this culture, but I have to speak to the culture I came from.
Right.
So for me, I have to do a lot of translation.
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Ministry on the Move. I've been your host, Chris McNeil. To learn more about the McNeils, you can find us on the web at mcneilmusic.com, mcneilmusic.tv, themcneilproject.com, on Facebook at The McNeils, YouTube at The McNeils. We are on all of the usual suspects. God bless you. We'll see you next time. I walked into a bookstore here recently trying to buy a book about turtles. And after walking around with no luck, I finally asked the gal behind the desk if they had any hardback, she asked. I didn't hesitate. Yep. And they bury their eggs in the sand.